Well, hello, and welcome back to Read Becca. We're here today to look forward into 2026 ahead. I already did a video looking back over the first half of 2026, and sitting down for that kind of mid-year check, I realized that I probably had enough to say to split these into two separate things. Usually those are kind of combined when people do the various tags, but I wanted to split it out. So this will mainly be a sort of anticipated releases video, but in looking at my reading so far in the year 2026, and I discussed this in that Reflections Looking Back video, so I will link that down below in the description box and in the cards. But I've been reading very differently this year, and something I've been succeeding at is reading a lot of backlist releases from authors I know and love, and series reading. And normally those are things I'm struggling with. So the reason I think I'm succeeding at that is because my new release reading has completely fallen off. And I'm not normally a huge new release reader, but I've read three 2026 releases, which is very, very low for me. Out of almost 100 books, that's really a low proportion. I normally, just by virtue of walking past the new releases shelf at my library, pick up that many in a given week. So that's really low, and I'm fine with that, but I also feel like maybe I've missed a few that I should have prioritized that came out this year, and also I do have some pre-orders. So I think we're gonna go through stuff I feel I've missed, stuff I've committed to by pre-ordering or placing holds, which is a very small list, and then some other stuff that's still to come out that I have on my radar, but I haven't committed to enough to place a hold or a pre-order on. So I've got my tablet here. This is gonna be very casual. I probably will just chop out me scrolling on this tablet so you don't have to bother waiting for me here, but let's talk through the new releases in 2026 that I'm hoping to read. So the first is an outlier because it's nonfiction. I do read a good amount of nonfiction, but I don't really follow nonfiction releases for the most part. So this is the only nonfiction on the list, and that is Talking Classics, The Shock of the Old by Mary Beard. And this came out in April. So I do really like Mary Beard, as she's kind of a historian and classicist, but she has done a couple of these. I believe this is a expanded essay or lecture. And so I think it's going to be quite short. And the one of hers on women in power, I believe that I read, I really liked how concise she was in getting across really detailed concepts. So I think this is going to be more of that. I do need to get to some of her big chunky books. So she's one of those loved authors that I need to get to backlist from, but I think I'm probably going to get to this front list before that. The next is very egregious because it's the new Murderbot novella, I think, Platform Decay by Martha Wells, and this came out in May. I have gotten a couple of books behind in this series, but I do love the series. And then there was sort of a timeline continuity shift in the series where it sort of jumped backward, and I wanted to reread all of the books at that point. They're fairly short. There's mostly novellas, I think 5, and this is the 6th novella and 2 novels, if I recall. But regardless, there are many books out there, and so rereading is a significant time commitment, and I want to do that. So is rereading the entire Murderbot series in my second half of the year? I think it could be, but that is kind of an undertaking to get to this newest book. So that's why I got a little bit behind. But I'm hoping in my optimistic plans, we're gonna get to Murderbot. Then Sarah Gailey put out a new book, Make Me Better. And they are an author that I've read everything from, who I absolutely love everything that Gailey puts out. Each book is pretty much a standalone and in a different genre, and they're all weird and wonderful and don't quite ever do what you expect. And so Gailey is very much an author for me, and this newest book I need to get to because it sounds like it could be my very most favorite Gailey book. It appeals to me so much. This is all about someone who's returning home to this remote, secluded, I think, an island with some very culty vibes that there's maybe a purification celebration going on there. And also, I believe it's sapphic and kind of horror. So all of that culminates to be ideal for me, though usually the marketing for Gailey's books don't quite match the way they're delivered. And often that works better for me, but it might not in this case. I don't know. I haven't seen hardly anyone picking this up, but I'm still so excited for it. And this one was out in May, if I didn't say that. Another May release that is in a series that I know and love is the latest Amina El-Sarafi book, The Tapestry of Fate by Shannon Chakraborty. And I really enjoyed the first book. This is kind of a fantasy in a historical Middle East. We're following a swashbuckling pirate woman who is in her middle age and telling us the story of her life somewhat. so fun, so entertaining, so fresh and different. I really enjoyed the first one, and so I need to get on to this sequel. Catherine Arden put out a new standalone, The Unicorn Hunters, and this is another fantasy. She always incorporates some significant history element to her works, and so I expect that to be there, but I'm kind of going in as blind as possible to this one because I think her work is always best done with a little surprise, and she writes with such subtlety that I just love the beauty of her prose and the subtlety of her plots. And I think this is going to be up there high up on my favorites list if I can get to it, but I just have not made the time. And this one came out in June. And so that is it up till present. And I think at the point where I'm filming this, this is just coming out today. And it's Mossed in Space by Rebecca Thorne. I can't remember who mentioned this, but I heard about it and I was like, oh my gosh, that is my book. So I think this is romantic, sci-fi, cozy fiction, and it has sentient moss on a spaceship. Everything about that sounds like my buzzwords. I really want to read it. Rebecca Thorne wrote one of the Tea books. I can't remember which one it was, but I have not read that one. So this would be a new author for me that I have felt the draw to before, but haven't actually tried. And everything about this is something that feels like it would appeal to me. Oh, I remember where I heard about this. I actually heard about this from Sarah Beth Durst, who wrote Spell Shop, and another cozy author, and was raving about it a couple months ago when I saw her speak on her tour for her newest book. So yeah, she really pitched it for sure. And that also takes us to another release out today, is Fabulous Bodies by Chuck Tingle. Tingle is an author that varies widely in what is being released. We've got some old stuff that is self-published, these very short kind of erotica, but recently Tingle has taken a detour into traditionally published horror thrillers, and they're always speculative and kind of weird, but with a lot of social commentary, and that really is the style of horror that I like. I've enjoyed very much the first two books that I read out from Tingle, and now this is the second out newly that I have missed. I need to get back to Lucky Day, and I need to get to Fabulous Bodies. And I think both of them sound fantastic, so I'm hopeful that one or both will be high up on my list if I can get to either of them this year. Then we're on to stuff that's not out yet. So let's talk about what I've got pre-ordered and committed to read, and then let's get into the stuff that's coming that I am not sure about. So first is A Trade of Blood. This is, I think, going to be a favorite of the year, like I've said about the previous ones, but this is almost a sure thing. All of Robert Jackson Bennett's previous books I've loved. This particular series, Anna and Din, is a botanical fantasy world with very kind of dark elements and imperialism going on in this world, but we're following a Sherlock and Watson duo who are investigators. So it has a very mystery fantasy blend. And I just love it. Everything about how this world is sort of set up, and the storytelling with these characters is so good. So I have this actually purchased pre-ordered because it is all but a sure thing that I'm going to love it. Yeah, can't wait. That is one I will be reading pretty much as soon as it gets into my hands, I think. And that one is out in August, apologies. My next pre-order coming in September is Deadbeat from Leigh Bardugo, the third in the Alex Stern series. And this is kind of urban fantasy elements it's got horror and dark academia. It's very dark and gritty, maybe some mythic fantasy as well there, but I really have enjoyed the first two books. I love this series, and it's so compulsively readable and gritty, and lots of unlikable characters that you get attached to anyway. So I really am compelled by this. So as soon as this one comes in on my hold from the library, I will be reading it for sure. So this is another pretty much sure thing. And then my last actual pre-order, and this one is a purchase pre-order that I've been waiting on for more than a year, is Revolution in the Heart, stories inspired by Ursula K. Le Guin, edited by Jonathan Strahan. And this is a well-known, well-loved editor in fantasy and sci-fi land, and these are all stories not by Ursula K. Le Guin, but inspired by her body of work, written by other authors. And so I think this is going to be a lot of really social commentary and strange imaginative fiction, things that really have something to say and are doing something interesting. And a lot of the authors I'm very excited about. So I've been waiting for this for a long time, and I'm so excited it's finally coming out. It's also got a gorgeous cover here, as you can see. So this one I may or may not read immediately. I don't know, but it's one I'm really excited about and have been waiting on a purchase for this for a very long time. So I definitely am buying it. I want it in my collection, and I'm excited to have it. And that one is coming out at the end of September. So that's all for my pre-orders and library holds coming out. And that's just 3 things. So totally manageable and doable. If they come into me, I could read them immediately, but will I? I don't know. I think I will right now, but we will see. Then yet another very manageable remaining list of things that are yet to come out. And all of them are coming in October, weirdly. I think October is going to be a massive release month. So prepare yourself, gird your loins for October, I think. These are just the ones that I really strongly have my eye on. I could see manageably reading these by the end of the year, but I don't think right now that I'm prioritizing those. However, these do all kind of hit that topic, that focus that I'm having of authors I already know and love, or continuing series. These are all new books from authors I know and love. So She's a Doll by Barbara Truelove is my first up, and I read and loved Of Monsters and Mainframes, I think mainly for the odd, unusual perspective that it carries. And this one is that. So She's a Doll is out at the beginning of October, and we're following, I think, a ghost who is inhabiting the body of a creepy doll. I really love that premise. It sounds wild. So I am absolutely, absolutely here for it. The next one, also early October, is A Wall is Also a Road by Anna Lee Newitz. I've read everything from Newitz in fiction, and I think some of their nonfiction, and I always enjoy it, though it tends to be mismarketed and delivered in a sort of non-standard way, I think. A lot more challenging emotionally than I think most people would expect. And so much like Gailey, it's sort of the same thing, where you think you're going and getting one thing and it's something else. So I'm excited about it, but we will see how it goes. The next is The Scarlet Ball by Niveau, another author I want to read everything by. I think I've only not read one novel and then the series that is based on The Great Gatsby. So I've read almost everything Niveau has put out and want to continue with this one for sure. I think this is going to be kind of on the darker end, and it sounds like it has maybe some fairy tale or folklore tie-in, but I'm not sure. Next, we have Becky Chambers. I just got done reading the Wayfarers series and absolutely loved. That was my favorite book of the year so far. So we have a new book finally from Chambers coming out in October, middle of October. And this one is very interesting because it's going to be, I think, more romantic, which has not been prominent in Becky Chambers' past books, really. But I think this one is romantic in space. It's got maybe cozy elements, but is not a cozy sci-fi. And it sounds like it's got some more conflict to it than a lot of Becky Chambers' work. So I'm really, really intrigued, but I will be there for anything that Becky Chambers writes, really. And lastly, this was a quick list, is The Bishop of Durham Attempts to Surrender the City by Susanna Clarke. So I think this is another like teeny tiny, like The Woods at Midwinter, but I will take anything that Susanna Clarke puts out pretty much. I'm really excited about it. So I think this is more of that vein in kind of being historical and similar to the Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell setting versus something else. And I just really am looking forward to anything she puts out because Susanna Clarke is a delight as a writer. Like her prose styling and her sense of place is really, really solid. So those are the books I'm looking forward to for the rest of this year. I have no idea if I will get to any of these or all of these, but these are what are most standing out to me as likely candidates that I will reach for if I see them on the shelf and be unable to put them down. So we'll see. We'll see. I feel really good about my reading year. These are all hyping me up. I'm really hoping that my second half of 2026 just continues rolling with all of the success that I've had in the first half. So with that, thank you so very much for watching.